he became father and mother. See, and we were about 12 when Mother died.
Did she ever have to work? Your mother?
No, never. I think they had a great deal of money. And I know they did. They owned a railroad and they were very wealthy people.
The zoo? Were you thinking of going there?
Well, what about your husband? What was he like?
Well, he was a very intelligent man. Very music. He didn't know anything about girls. He was delighted to have 2 daughters because his folks, Grandmother Sheridan had 12 children.
Oh, you're thinking of your dad now.
No, my
Your husband.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. But you asked me about my dad.
no, I asked you about your husband. I guess, but I wasn't thinking about. I was thinking. I was confused.
Are you?
You were talking about your husband.
Yeah.
So that's right. He had 2 girls also. He had 2 girls too. He had Betty and Cotton.
Betty and Cotton, yeah. And he was devoted to the 2 girls. He was devoted to them. And then he joined the yacht club. And we were divorced, before.
Where did the baby go?
He died.
I think she went inside.
It's too bad, but he just had to be out
It's
there.
high speed. You want to sit there?
Was that unusual for people to be
It
divorced
was in
then?
our family because there hadn't been anything like that.
At the lounge.
He was a great, he joined the yacht club. But he was a very intelligent man, and Neil was a very, their daddy was full of music. He had a natural talent. He could sit down and play.
You sit over there.
I know Dr. Rydell. Have you heard of Dr. Rydell?
You mentioned him to me
Yes,
before.
but let's see, how did we meet? Well, my mother died, as I told you. My father was manager of the Channel Commercial Company. And he moved to Ventura after Mother died. And he had his main office there. And then Mother died, and Marion and I were about 12. No, we weren't 12. We were about...
Well, you were 12 when she died, but then you moved and I guess you went to Ventura High School, and then you graduated, and then that's when you met Neil sometime? How did you meet him?
Then I had him at one time.
Wasn't he a sailor or something?
Oh, no, never. He was head of the Automobile Club in Ventura. And
Neil was?
Neil was. And then he was agent for Aetna Life Insurance. And he was really a very brilliant man and had wonderful music ability. He'd sit down to the piano and play by ear. And Dr. Friedel, who was a friend of his, they'd have had dinner prepped down at the yacht club, and then they'd end up at our house. Because I had the children, they were little. Maybe one wasn't born. I had taught her anyway. And then they'd come to our house, and Neil would sit down and just play anything on the piano. And he had his fiddle. He'd follow Neil, or he'd begin to play something, and Neil would accompany him. Both of them, and that's what they had.
That's a real talent.
Oh, it's a real talent. Neil never had music, but he was certainly very talented when it came to music. And Betty gets some of that. Totter's tone deficient, and I'm tone deficient.
Really?
Oh, yes, I can't sing.
But Totta can paint.
Totter can paint, you bet.
Well, was Neil a painter?
No, he never was a painter, but he was very artistic. He graduated from, I think I have his picture in there, graduation picture from Berkeley. He took art, and he was very artistic.
Was that the University of California? So how did you meet him?
In Ventura. My father, as I say, was manager of this channel commercial company, and
Then you figured out it was
Neil, Harry Vanderlander,
smart little kid.
was Papa's secretary, and Harry and Neil were great friends. So he met. So Neil used to down there, and he met Father, and gradually met me, and
Yes.
and that was that. I admired him because he was had so many talents. Not one of these that just couldn't even speak the English language. You know, in those days, some of the kids couldn't, boys and girls.
Sure.
And but he was very intellectual. And
Was he?
yes, very intellectual.
Did he read a lot? Did he read a lot?
Oh yes, he read a lot. He read a lot. When he had
And wasn't he a boater? I thought he was a boater or a yachtsman.
Well, he joined the yacht club, and we had a boat at one time. We bought a boat. I often wonder where we got the money to buy the boat, but I don't know. We bought one anyway.
How big was it?
Well, it wasn't big enough to go to the islands, but we had it towed over there. It was quite a nice boat, now an outboard motor. And we went over to the islands. Dick's Harbor. Have you ever been over there?
Well, I've been to Catalina is all.
Oh, you haven't seen anything. Catalina is too sophisticated.
Yes.
We went to an island where there was a stream that came down, and we had to bathe in a pool in the stream. There was nobody else on the island but wild pigs and wild boars
I remember you when you took your honeymoon there.
there. We took our honeymoon, and we didn't even have a tent. But he was very, Neil was very clever. He built up with rocks a stove and cooked. My goodness, he beat me cooking. You see, he was raised in a family where there were no girls, so those boys had to help their mother. There were a lot of them. And those boys, Neil was a good cook. He was a good cook, and very intellectual, very...
That's pretty good, Sarah.
What was he like as a younger child before you met him, do you know?
Oh, I don't know what he was like. He was in a big... They had about 10 boys.
Oh, he had a whole bunch of siblings.
A lot of them. And his father was the editor of the newspaper in Ventura. His brother was district attorney for the county down there. And
What happened to him after you two were divorced?
he got married again. And then they were divorced, and then he died, I hear.
Did he have an alcohol problem?
Yeah, very much so.
Were
That's
there
real
hangover from, stemming back to World War II? They were his buddies, World War I, beg your pardon.
Who was that?
Granddaddy, Neil. Weren't they his buddies? Some that
No,
were
we're talking about
Yeah.
your dad.
Yeah. Well, my dad.
You call him Granddad.
Yeah, for the kids' sake, we always did.
I see.
Yeah. He was, his father his brother was district attorney for all of Ventura County. But Uncle Bob, he was so sweet, wasn't he? You remember Uncle Bob?
Sure do.
He was darling. And
And so Neil's dad was editor of the newspaper in Ventura.
He was editor of the Free Press in Ventura, but before they went to Ventura, he bought the Free Press. Evidently, you had to buy the newspaper or something, and then he was editor. But he was a newspaper man for a big San Francisco newspaper. I don't know which one. Do you, Betty?
I always say the San Francisco Chronicle.
I don't know.
No, I really don't know either.
I don't know.
Except that, remember, who was his roommate? I mean, back before he was married. Grandpa Sheridan.
Granddaddy?
I mean, Edwin. Grandpa, my grandfather.
Neil's father.
Neil's father. Remember, who was his roommate? Wasn't it Jack London or?
Well, that was his uncle, Uncle Saul. Or well,
Oh.
that wasn't Neil's father. It was his father's brother. One of the men was very. Yeah, I know who you mean, but I can't think of which one it was either. That was years ago.
That was quite a while.
But I have that desk that was Jack London's, that the Sheridans gave me, that had been grandfather's,
Yeah,
or Uncle Saul's, or whoever
yeah,
was the roommate in San Francisco.
yeah.
It's funny, But that was very. And
So
then,
they didn't live in Ventura very long then? Talking
Did I?
about Neil's dad? Talking about the editor of the newspaper, Neil's dad, his father.
Oh, he lived in Ventura until he died.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he lived in. He was editor of the paper, and then he was retired, and he was
started
the
the
head of the museum up at the courthouse.
Oh, he was, in Ventura.
Yeah, in Ventura. I think that was all volunteer work, but he was very much interested in the history of Ventura, you know.
Was
written up in there, they have, the Bushes have books that have write-ups about Uncle Saul, Edwin, who was
Yeah.
my grandfather.
Yeah. Where do you have? Does Tava have those books, or do you? Or
No, this is some books on the history of Ventura.
Oh, Ventura.
Kind of like Who's Who in Ventura book. And that's Fred Bush has.
you know my hand, David, doctor. Look, it itches there, and I scratched it, and look, it's white.
Yes. I think you have a combination of several things there. You have dry skin to start with, plus you have a lot of sun damage there. That makes it itch, and you scratch
Yeah,
it, it dries
yeah.
out more.
Yeah. Because I did a lot. I've got a lot of the itch.
Well, you were sort of a sun worshiper, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Outdoor worship.
Oh, was
Outdoors.
I?
And unfortunately, that's hard on the skin.
I know it. I know it is.
And I have the same problem. So I know exactly what to look forward to.
And Mary already does too.
Oh,
Suzanne's
yes.
not quite as bad, but.
And yes, well, Suzanne has more of the darker pigment.
Uh-huh.
She really does. She was very fortunate. Lisa's very, very fair.
You see, I did a lot of
She's got that
swimming.
problem.
That's right. That's right. You mentioned the kelp club. You swam from the beach to the kelp and back.
Well, I swam on a relay down to Ventura or someplace.
Miramar.
Miramar. We had to go through the kelp, and I can remember
the wharf.
crawling through the kelp.
Oh my.
And then after years later, not very long ago, I saw a picture of all these wild animals that live in the kelp. Oh, the awfulest looking thing you ever saw, the eel. You should see that. I saw it up at the museum here. And it was
It's dangerous. Kelp is dangerous. People get trapped in the kelp, don't they?
Well, I crawled through it. I crawled. Remember, you were waiting on the wharf for me.
We said goodbye to her when she went in from the wharf. And then we drove down. We didn't have to wait too long. I swear, down at Miramar, they had a little wharf going out. And
There I came
there
to
she
that.
came. This was beyond the Biltmore. I mean, this was not the Biltmore one. So it was a long ways. And there were men.
I
She was the
was
only woman.
quite a swimmer.
Swam the whole way.
But
We
I
had
think
boats swim
now,
with them.
why my legs, a lot of women my age can't walk the way I do.